Hi everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition. And today we are going to dive into consciousness leaving versus running and how we start to be able to tell the difference. Because as humans, we had one go-to or the other go-to, right? We'd either run away from anything that wasn't comfortable, right? We would just leave. Or we would fight. It's kind of the fight or flight, but in a different context, right? We'd either stay and fight it out, but we would not be in a place to fight it out where we were emotionally clear on what we were fighting for, right? We would just go straight to argument, but it was still a deflection in it. There was still an avoidance in it, but we were not avoiding it the same way. These are two different ways to avoid. We either run from it altogether, which looks like a very direct way to avoid, or we would confront it, but confront it when we still had so many emotions around it. We weren't really confronting what we thought we were confronting. We were sort of there and pretending to ourselves we were confronting it, but we really weren't. Because we didn't even understand what we were doing, in a sense. We're just fueled by emotions. That's why one of the things I will always reiterate when I do videos on topics like this is we don't make a choice unless we're clear. We don't have an emotion around the choice. And if you still have an emotion around the choice, you're not in a place to make a choice because the emotions cloud our sight. We can't see what's highest aligned. When we're really emotional about something, we have no idea what's highest aligned because we're driven by the emotion. And we're almost dipping back into our human consciousness and getting really driven by the emotion of something. And when we're driven by the emotion, we can't see what we should do. So these are two different ways we would handle realities, right? And once we go through our awakening, we'll start our ascension process. Part of our awakening is we awake up to all the distortions in human realities, right? That's what we do. We're not disillusioned by it anymore. We're not disillusioned by what our life was. We understand it was we don't understand the extent yet when we start our awakening of how much it was just a waste of our time. Now, in a way, it's not because we agreed to do it and there was a reason why we were doing it. But we also have a reason when we're supposed to exit. And when we're in these phases of the exiting and we start trying to align our realities, we're always going to be in a higher consciousness to align a reality, right? We can't have our body in a fifth dimensional consciousness, meaning we've aligned our reality around that, unless we're operating from a 13th dimensional consciousness to align that reality. Our realities are aligned top down, right? Like we might be in a 13th dimensional consciousness, but we're aligning our 5-dimensional reality with our body. So technically they're the same. So the 13th dimensional consciousness links up with the 5th dimensional reality, right? That we're aligning. So when we start getting into that, and we're in that 13th dimensional consciousness, and we're trying to align our 5th dimensional reality, we're more into bliss and magic, and we don't care about much. Because 13th dimensional consciousness is a Christed consciousness. We don't care about, it's a love consciousness. It's fluffy, it's ooey, it's gooey. We start clearing the different aspect of that Christ consciousness, the Savior aspects of that Christ consciousness, but we're in this very ooey gooey, lovey phase. We haven't gotten into having to we're not really facing anything. I would say it's not, to me, either running or confronting. It's not a conscious avoidance or it's a running. It's more of we start to exist outside of it for a while and we pull away from it to connect deeper inside and experience the bliss and the magic of the 5th dimension. Until we get kaplunked back into our life, in a sense, because we have this misconception that we're going to get into 5th dimensional realities and everything aligns around us and it's all bliss and magic and we're done. Not understanding, oh no, we just started. This is just the beginning. I just went through the front gate of the amusement park and I thought I was, I'd ridden all the rides. No, I just got in there. And so we just get in here. But if we don't know what bliss and magic feels like, then we don't know what we're trying to align to. So there's a big important part of that connection. You might be out on Gaia a lot. You're outside a lot. Eventually Gaia vibration is lower than what our vibration gets to. So you go out to play, you know, you go out and you enjoy being outside, but you don't require it, and you're not requiring it to match to get your vibration up anymore. You're going outside just to have fun and play with Gaia, but you're not requiring it, and you don't require as much outside time anymore because you've reached that vibration and more. So you don't require it anymore. But in the beginning, like being outside during your fifth dimensional, when you're in that fifth dimensional time in your ascension timelines, being outside is pivotal. So to me, fifth dimension, it's really kind of almost in a state of flux. We don't even know what we're trying to avoid. We don't care. You know, we're just enjoying love and bliss and magic and rainbows, and not that we don't enjoy rainbows later, but it's a different context. Everything's magical and beautiful, right? And when we're in that phase, we're kind of detached from it. But we have to detach from it to connect with it. We can't stay connected to all the human bullshit and connect within ourselves. The whole part of the human consciousness is to keep us disconnected. You know, so we can't stay connected over here and then connect inside. We have to disconnect to connect with ourselves. So then we get into the phase where, okay, kaplunk, now I'm getting into different levels of consciousness. Now I'm in 17th dimension, 18th dimension consciousness, and that's lining now up with my 6th, 7th, 8th dimensional realities. And I have to start aligning stuff. And I have to be clearing programming that I have and aligning my realities and dealing with shit that's not okay. And this is where we get into which one we're going to do. Are we going to go back? Because you're always going to, for a while, until you clear the program, revert back to your human go-to, okay? Because it's in the body, and the matrix is in the body, that is in your body. So you're going to go back to that until you clear it. And you might be doing it less and less because you're clearing the program. But if you don't recognize which one's your go-to, am I a fighter or am I a flighter? Am I going to run? Or am I going to stay and fight, but fighting with no purpose? I mean, a lot of awakening in a sense is fighting with you're kind of trying to fight the system in a sense, until you realize you can't fight within, you got to leave it behind. That's how the collective's weakened. We all pull out of that collective and the collective just goes away. So we start pulling away from stuff, we start leaving stuff behind, but we're still sort of in the fourth dimension. We try to fight it. You know, that's when we get to the fifth dimension, it feels like such a relief because we're just left it all. You know, but we left it with, at the time, we don't realize we're leaving it with a conscious awareness. We don't notice that till later. We're leaving it because we don't really know what to do with it. It's so fucked up, I don't know how to fix it. So I'm just going to leave it. So to me, it's kind of in the middle of the road. When we leave to go through the fifth dimension, we're not consciously doing one or the other. We're just detaching because we don't really know what to do, right? And we're going to experience something else for a while. And when you're in that phase, which could be 6 months, a year, 2 years, some people go through the fifth dimension and go straight into the sixth very quickly, 3 or 4 months. For the most part, I think it's 1 to 2 years for all of these minimum processes. But, you know, I never want to dictate anybody's journey. But from what I've seen and what I've seen other people go through, it's a minimum of 2 years just to build the new templates for the next thing you're going to be doing. Because you're always getting in a different consciousness, building a template while you're establishing the template you're in and getting in the new blueprints for the next one you're going to do. You're never just doing one thing. And that's why you feel so much more work you're doing with the body once you get into your higher ascension timelines, because you can consciously see all the stuff you're doing and understand, okay, I'm finishing up this, but I'm getting in the new blueprint for this next year, and then I'm anchoring this in, but I'm getting in a different consciousness to anchor in something else next year. So when we get into 6, 7, and 8, then we kind of we get kaplunked back into our reality. And the reason, one of the billion reasons for that, is we've achieved the higher level of consciousness, right? We're operating from that 13th dimensional consciousness, and we're trying to put our life into a 5th dimensional reality. But we can't really even achieve that until we align what we have to align. And to align that, we're going to do one thing or the other. We're going to consciously leave it behind, or we're going to run from it, or we're going to try to align it. Now, the phase I'm going to talk about right now, There's not much to align in some of these earlier phases because we don't know how to align it yet, right? So I'll probably do a different, I've done a lot of videos on aligning realities. I'll probably do a new one soon. But so when we start aligning, we're more into like 7 and 8 to me. 6 is realizing it's kind of screwed up. You start aligning your realities, you start trying to align it, but the beginning of the 6th reality, and even when we start getting into like the beginning of the 5th to the end of the 5th dimension, and we start getting into the beginning of the 6th to the end of the 6th, we're still aligning our own life. 7 and 8, we're aligning our life, keeping it aligned, and starting to work in the collectives because we've got enough of our stuff aligned that we can go and assist other people. How do we know if we're running or consciously walking away? I said in the beginning of this or in the middle or at some point in this that when we start walking out of human realities, we just leave it all behind. And kind of the saying, we leave the keys in the door to the house and we just leave. We don't care. We've got to the point where we fought it long enough where we can't win. We know it's a stacked deck. We can't be, the house is going to win in the human realities. I'm not going to play anymore. But I don't know how to align it. So I'm just going to leave. Now, I feel like in the beginning of a lot of these leavings, a lot of times we're kind of running. And running because we don't know what to do. Running because we don't know how to fix it. We don't have the energy to fix it, which means we don't have the money to fix it, the consciousness to fix it. We don't even know what to do with it, If there's an emotion that's driving you to go, you're running. If there's a fear there, you're running. If there's a control there, you're running. If there's any emotion that's pushing you in one direction, even anger in a sense is pushing you in a direction away from it, but in a sense it's still running because we're not dealing with it. To deal with it means we're going to sit there and set in it. We're going to set it in a sense, we're going to straighten it out inside of us what's causing us to stay here. Why do we not want to align it? Why do we not want to talk to the people in it to say we're going to close it out? Why are we not confronting it head on, but not from an emotional place? Confronting it head on to, can we align this? Is this aligned from a place of no emotion? We have to clear the emotion first. If there's any emotion around the reason you're doing it, it's technically we're running from it because we don't want to deal with the emotion. It's not that completely unconscious place where we just are in, oh, it's 5th dimension, let me just go and float for a while. I don't want to even deal with any of it. This is all stuff I don't want to deal with. It's, light, love, peace, let's go. I don't want to think about it. Once again, just the beginning. You're just going into the amusement park at that point. There's so many other rides we're going to get on. That's just the opening. You just got the ticket for the front gate at that point. People call it, entering the gates of heaven. That's beginning. It's not that end point everyone thinks it is. If you're at that point and everyone's like, oh, that's the end, that's just as far as they've gone. They feel like it's the end. For a lot of us, we want it to be the end because we're like, oh, what could come next? Oh, wait, all this reality around me that I've created that's completely a mess that someone's got to align. I guess it's got to be me, right? At some point, I'm going to have to align this. So we can have a conscious leaving where we understand we can't align it. We understand we don't have what it takes to align it. And we might even be able to see the emotions around it, that maybe this is not the right time to align it because I got to clear the emotion I have around it. We have to have the self-awareness as to why we're doing what we're doing. The awareness is the key. It really doesn't matter which one we do. The consciousness behind what we're doing dictates what we're doing. If we know I have a lot of anger here, I have a lot of fear here, let me go work through that, and then let me come back and see what's highest line to do here. The highest line thing might be to close the whole thing out. Normally it is. I mean, all of my realities really that I created from a human consciousness, none of them got realigned. Not for long. I mean, you can buy a little time, push the deck chairs around on the Titanic, but pretty much they're all sinking. In my experience, I could rearrange a little bit. I could, throw a person in over here or put in some new carpet. But at the end of the day, they were not created on higher consciousness. They were not created on the higher consciousness gridding system. And if they're not, there's nothing to hold them in. When you get into the higher consciousness realities, they're not gridded to that. They're gridded to something else. So even though we can try to, move it around, shift it around a little bit, sometimes we're just biding our time and waiting for another timeline to come in. We're waiting for something to pop up. We know, hey, I know this is not aligned long term, but be kind with me. I said that many a times in the early stages and middle stages, and even nowadays I'll still say it. I know this isn't highest aligned, but be kind with me because I'm not sure where I'm supposed to jump to yet. So be kind with me. I know this is not the highest aligned right now. Let me figure out what is highest aligned. Don't collapse it on top of me. A lot of times what we will do, and there's kind of, I guess, a middle ground to whether you're consciously leaving or you're running away, is we choose to do nothing and we just stand in it and let it fall down around us. And that's what we did in our human existence. And we will still carry that. I guess we could say maybe there's three different things we'll do, but we kind of ride that horse till it's dead, and we just stay in it until the whole thing just completely, we're so disconnected from that timeline, it just collapses out from under us. And we're trying to grab for the next one. But because we didn't ascend up to the next one, we found we're kind of in this limbo state for a while and kind of floating around because we didn't really try to develop the next one. That's why you'll always feel that you need to be doing the next thing to start bringing in the next timeline. So when this one is done, you have another one to jump to. If we don't do that, we will have nothing to jump to. And we'll spend a lot of time spinning our wheels trying to either claw back to the old one or jump up to the new one where we haven't cleared enough to get there yet because we're still trying to hold on to the old one. So the consciousness you make the choice from, that's what dictates where we are with it. That's what dictates, is it highest aligned in a sense in that moment? Do I even know what's highest aligned? Can you see it? Don't feel rushed into making a choice. Now I say that, don't avoid making the choice either. I mean, I'll see a lot of people go, oh, it's not the right time. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. And yeah, I know damn well they know what the right choice is. They just don't want to do it. There's an avoidance there, So running is avoiding. A different way of saying, oh, I don't know, let me set in a little bit longer, that's still avoiding. It's a subset of running in a sense. You're running standing still. Knowing that eventually the timeline's going to run out. Either you're going to run out on it or the timeline's going to run out on you. It's one or the other. We're still kind of setting in something that we know isn't aligned. We know we have a fear of leaving it. We have a fear of staying in it. No matter which way it's falling for you at that point. Conscious awareness, consciously leaving something behind means we understand what's going on. We understand we have stuff going on. We understand we got to work through that stuff before we can align it or before we can close it out. If we don't see that yet, we're just doing a lot of different forms of running in a sense. We're avoiding it. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to admit it. Because when you get through your fifth dimensional process and you get kaplunked, and all of a sudden you feel disconnected from that feeling, it's because in a sense you could plug back into your life. And your human life was not molded on fifth dimensional consciousness or higher, right? It was molded on third dimensional consciousness. You might have started morphing into fourth dimensional consciousness, but that's not fifth dimensional. That's not 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's not getting into the billionth dimensional consciousness of what you can experience. So it feels jarring when you get kaplunked. So if you're in that kaplunked phase and you went through parts of everything was magical and beautiful and everything was just, etherical in a sense, and now all of a sudden you're back in the shit again, you're like, oh my God, did I do it wrong? I want to get back to fifth dimensional. I don't want to deal. That's why I will say if you're not in fifth dimension and you're onto a different space, if you're in 6th, 7th, 8th, the more worker bee realities, dimensions, and you're aligning those from a much higher consciousness, but you're aligning those physical realities. Working with someone in the fifth dimension is very tough because they don't want to do anything but float around and experience fifth dimensional energy. That's what they want to do. So it's not the worker bee, it's the feminine, it's the divine feminine. It's not the divine masculine, I'm going to get to work here and align this shit up and get some shit moving. It is the, woo, I just want to float around. So it's hard to work with someone in that phase if you're not in that phase, which kind of piggybacks on a video I did about, you can have different You can still have Ascension soulmates, but if they're in a different part of Ascension, they can't stay around but so long normally, because you don't want to work with someone who's not going to be doing anything. You don't want to work with someone that just wants to float around. Though it's a very important part of the process, it might not be a good fit for where you are. So just because someone is in there, sometimes people say they're in their ascension process and they're not. They're still very much in the fourth dimension. They're not in the phase they think they're in. And they want to say all this stuff, but if they're still talking, about all the human stuff they're trying to gain, and if they're saying, oh, if you're in the fifth dimension, you can have all the money you want, or all the cars you want, or you can attract this and attract that. That's not fifth dimension. In fifth dimension, you don't give a shit about any of that stuff. If you're still caring about what you have, you're still in third dimensional human ego, fourth dimensional purgatory. Fifth dimension, you don't care about it. And it's kind of the old adage, if you don't care about it, you can have it, because you're going to utilize it differently. If you care about it and you covet it, you're not going to want to share anything. You're not going to share it because it's yours, right? It's like Gollum's ring. It's mine. It's mine, mine, mine. It's like a child watching a child with a toy. It's mine. I don't want to share it. And we beat up, not literally, but, we get so agitated children when they don't want to share. But as humans, we don't want to share either. We just have bigger toys we don't want to share. And we don't understand why this child has a little toy and they don't want to share. Well, to them, that's all they have, in a sense. Their toys are their toys. That's their reality. Our reality might be a house, a car, whatever we have, but we don't want to share that because, that's mine. That's what our human consciousness will say. That's mine, that's mine, that's mine. So I think I've probably explored that, and I'm going to not make this one as long as my last one, so I'm going to cut it here. So I will see everyone next time. Keep practicing the art of it.